Greetings for the day, friends. I, CA Pujin Kapadia, welcome you all on my today's lecture on the subject Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 5. Friends, we had started with the topic of types and classification of audit, under which we had seen the classification from the various viewpoints. First of all, I had taught you the classification on the basis of the forms of organization or from the legal viewpoint, like whether it is compulsory to do the audit or it is voluntary to do the audit, under which we had seen in the first part that it is required to be audit under various laws which are being enforced in our country. As a result of which there are various acts under which we had studied, like insurance audit, bank audit, companies audit, etc. Next is audit which is not covered under any law, that is voluntary. That is, if you feel like get your books of accounts get audited, then you can do the audit for the same. Next classification was on the basis of time, under which I had explained you two categories. One was interim audit, that is when an audit is being done between two periodic audits. That means when you are having some interim purpose like declaration of interim dividend or like submitting quarterly audited financial statements to SEBI. In that particular case, you want to get your books of accounts audited during the year, that is within the year when the year is already going on. Then such audit which is being taken place between two annual or a periodic audit is known as interim audit. Against which what is it is annual audit, under which I am starting my audit after my year is ending, that is after the end of financial year. I am completing my entire audit in a continuous setting and I am conducting my audit only once in a year. If such is the case, then it is falling under the head of annual audit. It is also known by as final audit, periodic audit, or balance sheet audit. Next is from the viewpoint of continuity, under which we had covered first continuous audit. That is, I had explained you when I'm constantly engaged in verifying the books of accounts of my client during the entire period, that is during the whole year, either at regular intervals or at irregular intervals. I'm paying the visit to my client's place. In short, I'm constantly engaged with the audit work and I'm checking and verifying every transaction that is being incurred by my client. Then such kind of audit is known as continuous audit. Second was complete audit. It means each and every transaction is being totally verified. This is advisable when you are auditing the set of books of accounts for the very first time, because practically it is not possible that you are going to verify each and every transaction in detail. So where it is advisable? It is advisable only when you are going to audit the books of accounts for the first time. Next was partial audit. In this, I am not auditing the entire set of books of account. I am just focusing or auditing only some records or some books or some accounts. For example, I am running a business. I am a single owner or I am running a partnership firm. I personally feel that there is some fraud in cash receipts or cash payment, but I am not able to identify this. What I can do is I can get cash book audited from the auditor. Now here I am not ordering him to examine each and every books of account. I am just telling him to audit only one book, that is my cash book. Such kind of audit which is being conducted is known as partial audit. The third and the most important topic that we covered in the last lecture was auditing in depth. As the word says, we are going to audit in detail, in depth. Fine. Now what I'm talking about as of now is I'm going to go through the entire audit trail. Friends, please mark my words. I'm repeating this word again and again. I'm going through the entire audit trail, TRAIL. That is, I'm checking each and everything from the origin to the end. Like I have given you the example in the last lecture that I had received a payment of rupees 1 lakh from my debtor, Mr. X. So I am going to check since he placed his order till the date I had recorded the payment in my books of account. That is, I am going to verify each and every transaction. I am going to investigate this particular transaction at each and every stage. I am going to check the records, the evidences, the bills or the supporting documents for each and every transaction. And I am also going to check the proper authorization, that whether the person who has approved this transaction is actually having the power to do the same or not. When audit is conducted in such a way, in such detail, then it is known as auditing in depth. And the last topic for the last lecture that we had covered was classification on the basis of scope, under which there are three particular things, but we had covered two, that was internal audit and external audit. What was internal audit? When management wants to get the books of account audited, what is their main objective, which is written in the last point, either to help them in decision making or to detect and prevent any kind of frauds and errors. What management do is they appoint the internal auditor. They define the scope of work, like what work is supposed to be performed by that internal auditor. Internal auditor need not to be the chartered accountant, he can be any person, fine. And at the same time, whatsoever work is being done by the internal auditor, he is answerable to whom? To the person who has appointed, that is management. He is going to present his report to the management. And the second was external audit. It is required to appoint auditor under any law. So basically it is not voluntary, it is compulsory. So who is going to do the appointment? Shareholders are going to do the appointment. It is shareholder to whom the external auditor is answerable. He is going to present his report to the shareholders. Who is going to decide what the external auditor is supposed to do? Answer is, it is being determined by the law. So what is being written in the law? External auditor is supposed to carry out his work on the basis of what is being given in that particular law. For example, auditor is being appointed under Companies Act 2013, then he has to follow all the rules and provisions which are being mentioned under Companies Act 2013. So basically this is the difference. Internal auditor is an employee for that particular organization. Why? External auditor is basically the independent person and outsider who is going to perform his duties as the auditor. I hope I am clear with all the points that we had taken up in the last lecture. Fine. Let's move to the third category under this part of scope, that is branch audit. Now branch audit can come individually as a short note also. So there are sufficient points that I have written and covered in this particular slide. First of all, under section 228 of Companies Act, branch audit by company auditor or any other competent person. So first of all, who is supposed to be person to conduct the branch audit? So either a company auditor can conduct the branch audit or any other competent person. Competent person is the person who is fulfilling the requirements to get appointed as the auditor. It is known as competent person. So as per section 228 of Companies Act, who can be the branch auditor? Either the auditor of the company. Let's take an example. For example, I am auditing the books of account of a multinational company. Now for a multinational company as a whole, there is one company auditor, a statutory auditor who is conducting the audit. But now that multinational company is having their branches at 100 different cities in India. Now it is not possible for a company auditor to audit each and everything. Fine. As a result of which, what is done is various branch auditors are appointed. For example, in city of Surat, there is one branch. So a separate branch auditor will be appointed for Surat. There is one branch in Delhi. A separate branch auditor is going to be appointed for Delhi. So on and so forth. As a result of which, what is branch audit? As a company who is performing as a multinational company around the country, it is not possible to cover and audit books of account individually for all the branches. So what is undertaken is branch audit is being undertaken. So branches are assigned, branch auditors are appointed for individual branches. So the first point that I'm covering over here is under section 228, the company auditor himself or any competent person can be appointed as the branch auditor. Second point is, if the auditor is different from the company auditor, if company auditor is auditing, then there is no question. But if the auditor who is conducting the branch audit is different from the company auditor, then the company auditor has right to visit the branch and access the books anytime. However, in case of bank audit, he can have access to copies of extracts from the books. Let's understand this part. Generally, the person who is auditing the books of account, he is having full rights that he can visit the branch premises and access any of the books of accounts as and when he feels necessary. But now what is the case? Company auditor is Mr. X, for example, and the branch auditor who is auditing Surat branch is Mr. Y. Now here, who is having this power? Mr. Y is having this power because branch is being audited by Mr. Y. But in this particular case, even if company auditor wants, that is Mr. X wants to access the books of accounts of Surat branch, or he wants to take the visit of Surat branch, he has full rights to do the same. So you can understand, company auditor is supreme one. He is at the top. Under him who is working, branch auditor is doing his duties. In short, the rights of company auditor for the company as a whole are unaffected. Though the registered office is in Mumbai, he can visit any of the branch around the country as and when he feels requirement. So the rights of company auditor to visit the branch and to access the books of accounts are as it is in the case of company he is auditing. Now, if I'm talking about the bank audit, you cannot access directly the books of account, but you have the right to access to the copies of the extracts. What is extracts? For example, I'm having the entire cash book, but I want to verify or examine the entries for 1st April 2019. So what I can get done is I can take an extract. You can say a summary for the only 1st April 2019, and I can have the copy and I can have the access to that particular copy of the transaction on the date of 1st April 2019. So this is nothing. What I have done is I have not taken the entire book of account, that is entire cash book. I have just taken a summary of one date, that is 1st April 2019, and I have just accessed that particular transaction. So in the second point, we had discussed the rights that though the branch auditor is Mr. Y, but as a company auditor, Mr. X has the power to access the books of account and to visit a particular branch. Third point, branch auditor is appointed by the shareholders in the AGM. So who is appointing the branch auditor? He is being appointed by the shareholders in the annual general meeting. If it fails to do so, that is, in case shareholders fail to appoint branch auditor, then board of directors are empowered to appoint branch auditor with the consultation to company auditor. So primarily the right is with shareholders to appoint the branch auditor. But in case due to any reason shareholders fail to appoint branch auditor, they cannot appoint branch auditor in annual general meeting, then this right passes to the board of directors. That board of directors are competent or empowered to appoint any person as a branch auditor, but after consultation with the company auditor. So as I have told you, Mr. X in our example, who is going to audit the entire company, fine, who is having 100 branches, is the supreme person. He is having the highest authority as the auditor. Below him, who is going to perform? Branch auditors are going to perform. So just understand the structure. Who is the main person? Mr. X, who is the main auditor. Under him, he can have 100 different auditors who are going to be in charge for that particular branch only. So for Surat, Mr. Y is responsible, but Mr. X is going to be responsible for each and every branches, totally 100 branches. So in this particular point, we had discussed about the appointment. Basically, who is empowered? Shareholders are empowered, but if shareholders fail to appoint, then who is having the power? Board of directors are having the power to appoint the branch auditor, but after consultation with company auditor. Next point is powers of branch audit for the particular branch is equal to powers of the company auditor. This line is basically talking about, for example, I am auditing a multinational company, as I have told you. As a company auditor, whatsoever power I am having for that particular company as a whole, branch auditor will be having the same power for that particular branch. So Mr. Y का जो Mr. X का जो power has the main auditor on that entire company, Mr. Y का वो same power रहेगा for the particular Surat branch. I hope I am getting and making a point. Fine. So the power of a company auditor for a company is equal to the power of a branch auditor for his particular branch. Next point is report of branch by branch auditor is forwarded to whom? To the company auditor. As I have told you, company auditor is supreme auditor. As a result of which he is going to be accountable for the audit of the entire company. So what he's going to do is he's going to collect the audit report from all the 100 branches in our example, and then he is going to collate the same, merge the same, and going to prepare the final audit report. So basically the report of the branch auditor is being submitted to the company auditor. And the last point is central government has framed the company's branch audit exemption rules 1961 to exempt branch office from the above provisions. So there are certain exemptions which are being allowed by the central government, that okay, you are not required to comply with all the points that are written above. When there is a particular criteria, average of quantum of activity of the branch does not exceed, that is the total business level or the total business turnover of that particular branch should not exceed either rupees 2 lakh, that is पूरे महीने का जो उनका business है पूरे year का, fine, it should not exceed 2 lakh, or 2% of average of turnover and earnings from the sources of the company as a whole. In short, what you guys supposed to remember is 2 lakh rupees or 2% of the average turnover and earnings of the particular company as a whole. Suppose I'm talking about a multinational company. Multinational company का पूरे year का जो भी turnover और earnings होगा उसका 2%. What I need to do is I need to consider whichever is higher. So suppose let's take an example. Fine. A company is having a turnover and earning which is average of 10 crore rupees. Fine. What is the average turnover and earnings for a company? 10 crore rupees. Now what I'm supposed to do is 10 crore ka 2%. It is going to come at 20 lakh rupees. Now I am having two criteria. First is 2 lakh and second is 20 lakh. 2 lakh or 20 lakh, whichever is higher. I hope I'm making sense. What I have told you is company का entire average turnover and earnings मिला के कितना हो रहा है 10 crores. Now as per point number 2, what I am supposed to do is 2% of 10 crores which is coming to 20 lakhs. So now I'm going to check this condition 2 lakh or 20 lakh, whichever is higher. What is higher? Point number 2, that is 20 lakh. So if the average business or quantum of activity of my branch is not exceeding 20 lakhs, then I am not supposed to fulfill all this criteria. But if it is exceeding 20 lakhs, then I am falling under the category of branch audit and I am supposed to comply with all these provisions. In short, this is the judging criteria that whether you are exempted from the branch audit or not. So if your activity is below that particular level that we have calculated in point number 1 and 2, then you are exempted. You are not supposed to comply with any of the provisions with respect to branch audit. But if your business is above the stated level, then you are required and you are covered under the category of branch audit. I hope I am clear with what I have explained you. I'm just giving you a moment, take a quick overview in detail at each and every point that I have mentioned you in this particular slide, as this question is also likely to become as your short note. Fine, take a quick view. Well, friends, I hope you have seen all the points that I have written over here. And so I hope you are clear with this particular topic. So in this particular head of classification of audit from the viewpoint of scope, we have covered three different categories. First was internal audit, that is basically being appointed by the management to perform the day-to-day audit work. Second is external audit, basically it is being appointed by the shareholders if it is required under any law. And third is branch audit, as I have told you, if the last point, that is the criteria, if your activity is exceeding that particular criteria, you need to follow all the particular points that are written over here. Now let's start with the new category, the name of which is based on the viewpoint of speciality. So now friends, we are going to study different areas which are not basically based on certain specific thing, but they are totally different in themselves. So in this particular point also, we are going to cover several types of audit. The first one that we are going to deal with today itself is cost audit. I hope you all are knowing what is cost. Fine. Most of you have already studied the same thing. You have studied a subject, Advanced Accounting and Auditing 2 and Auditing 4 in your last year, where you are studying cost or accounting, under which you have taken care of material costing, labor costing, overhead costings, and whatnot. So basically, what I'm going to do is, as of now, what I was talking about is financial audit. That is, I'm maintaining my books of account, I'm maintaining my all the accounting transactions and normal accounts that you prepare, and we are examining that record. So it was falling under the head of financial audit or a normal audit. But now, since the name suggests, what I'm going to talk about is cost audit. So basically, we are going to verify and examine all the thing in the same manner, but now for the cost accounting data. वहाँ पे क्या था? Financial accounting data. Here we are going to consider cost accounting data. So first of all, let's check the definition. It reads as cost audit is the verification of the correctness of the cost accounts and of the adherence to the accounting plan. It has been given by the Institute of Cost and Management Accountants, UK. So basically what is written over here, I am going to focus on 2 points. First is verification of correctness of my cost accounts, that all the data that I have maintained from the viewpoint of costing, that is my cost accounting, is basically true or not, that is correct or not. And second is I need to see that whether all the data is adhered to the accounting plan, that is जैसा accounting plan में होना चाहिए था सारा recording ऐसे ही हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है. Two important points. First is correctness of my cost accounting data, and second is adherence, or you can say compliance to your accounting plan. So basically this is cost audit. Now let's see what are the objects of cost audit, why cost audit is supposed to be undertaken. First is arithmetic accuracy of cost accounting data. You are required to check whether all the cost accounting data are being correct and accurate arithmetically. That is, there is no calculation mistake in any of the accounting data with respect to costing. This is your first point. Second is adherence of cost accountant to accepted principle. You need to check whether all the cost accounts that you have prepared are adhering to the principle of cost accountancy. Like there are certain laid down principles that you are required to follow. So you are checking over here that whether all the data or accounts that you have maintained are as per those principles or not. Third is detecting your errors or frauds in the cost accounts. You want to check that whether any error or fraud is there in the cost accounts that are being prepared by you. This is your third objective. Next is adherence to principles laid down by the management. You need to check whether the principles that are laid down by the management are being complied with or not. For example, management wants that abnormal wastage should be maximum 1%. Fine. So it is a principle which is being laid down by the management. So you are checking over here that whether your wastage is 1% or less or not. Because if it is more, it is not proper, right? As a result of which, what you are saying is you have adhered to the principle of management or not. It is being checked by the cost audit. Next is scientific determination of cost of production. We very well know that cost of production determination is a part of cost audit. Now I need to check whether a standardized method is being adopted in determination of a cost of production. Like you might have studied in last year, there was a chapter called unit costing, that is preparing a cost sheet, finding out a product cost per unit. Fine. Now in that particular point, you were following a particular system. Like previous, first of all, you are going to add about direct wages, direct raw material. Then after you are going to adjust work in progress. Then after overheads and so on. So basically you need to check whether the determination of cost of production has been done in a standardized procedure or not. Is being also taken care of by the cost audit. Next is to check proper accounting, especially under absorption and over absorption of overhead. Suppose I was having a budget of incurring 1 lakh rupees as expenditure on advertisement, but when I was actually checking the actual expenditure, the amount was 1,20,000. So मेरे लिमिट से मैंने 20,000 extra spend कर दिया. So this is nothing. This is something abnormal for me, which is supposed to be controlled. So again, cost audit helps to identify whether my overheads are under absorbed or over absorbed. Next is examining the accuracy in valuation of closing stock and work in progress. We very well know that we are supposed to value the closing stock and work in progress. Fine. But we need to check whether this has been done correctly or not. Again, this is going to be the part of your objective of cost audit. Next is control over expenditure. This is the most important part, because if you are preparing the budgets and if you are carrying the standard costing method, then you know what we are doing by standard costing. We were finding the variations or the deviations, fine, whether it is adverse or favorable. So basically you can come to know whether your expenditure are under control or not. If not, then cost audit is basically going to help you out in planning the same. Last and the important point is reconciliation of cost and financial accounts. We very well know the profit that I find out on the basis of cost accounting, the profit that I find out on the basis of financial accounting may differ. Why? Because there are certain elements which are considered in financial accounting but which are ignored in cost accounting and vice versa. So proper reconciliation is supposed to be framed so that you come to know that both the accounting has been done correctly. In short, all these points are the basic objectives to the question, why cost audit? So when someone asks you that I want to get cost audit done for my particular organization, and they ask that what is the purpose of getting cost audit done? You are already getting financial audit done, right? Then why it is necessary to get cost audit done? The answer to that is over here, that these are the objectives. These are the principles for which you feel that cost audit is necessary. As a result of which, here I have stated the objectives of cost audit. So we have done with two important things, the definition of cost audit and the objectives of cost audit, under which I had explained you definition to check correctness of the cost accounts that I had prepared and to check the adherence to the accounting plan. मतलब जैसा plan में बोला गया है, I am doing in that manner or not. And second are the objectives, basically revolving around the fundamentals of the costing. I hope I am clear with this particular part. We are going to carry forward with this particular topic of cost audit in our upcoming session. So by this, I, CA Pujan Kapadia, thank you all for your patient listening and hope to see you soon in my next lecture. Thank you, friends.